favorite parts of doing these videos every week is that I am always spoiled for choice when it comes to subjects to talk about. There is always something happening. There is always something going on in this industry that's worth having a deeper discussion on. It has ideas and principles that are worth expanding on and adding your own influence to. And especially lately, you know that there might be one particular story that, well, considering who inspired this series to begin with, might be a little personal to me. Don't worry, I am going to be talking about that. And if everything goes according to plan currently, the way I have things figured out in my head, the case between Jim Sterling and digital homicide might be taking a bit of an interesting turn.
If you've been following these videos so far, first off, thank you for indulging me in this little journey. It's something I've wanted to be able to do for quite some time, and to help me say thanks, I've got a very special treat for you in this final episode. The most important aspect of not only being successful at this job, but also staying successful. Tech is good, yeah, you can't make video content without it, and the money needed to buy that tech is equally as useful. But if you're going to willingly hop on to the roller coaster of ups and downs that come along with doing this shit for a living, you absolutely need the right attitude. You ever hear the phrase, do what you love? Well, you better take that to heart if you plan on making the internet your office. I mentioned in the last video that it'll probably take months, if not years, for you to start seeing just decent financial gains from this, but that's not even the half of it. The internet is much like the ocean, calm and serene when it chooses, but can turn into a maelstrom on a whim. And it's easy to get overwhelmed by that. We as human beings are simply not built to handle thousands of angry voices all yelling at us at once. You think one guy on a forum is getting under your skin? Try multiplying that agitation hundreds and hundreds of times over every single day. Without fail, you will be dealing with that probably even before you get big. So if you don't have a legitimate passion and drive for this job to cancel it out, you're not going to survive very long. Without that love, you will eventually break down under the constant waves of people telling you that you're not special. Because here's the thing, they're right. I'm sure your latest video took hours, days, nay, weeks of planning for you to make. I'm sure you lost actual sleep pouring your heart and soul into absolutely everything you produce. That's great. So do I. And so does everyone else on this platform, presumably, because that's all you can do to help your channel stand out. Time and effort invested does not necessarily equal success or a positive response, especially considering the sheer number of people out there who are also competing for your audience's collective time. For crying out loud, Duke Nukem Forever took over a decade to come out, and people still turn their noses up at it. Rightfully so, because let's be frank, it wasn't very good. You can't go into this thinking that's not going to happen to you, especially if you're still new at it. You're not infallible. You're going to make mistakes. Everything you build is not going to be perfect right from the get-go, and it's really hard to accept that. You always put a bit of yourself in your art, so when that art comes back to you covered in someone else's bile and nastiness, it's really easy to take that personally. But you can't. You simply cannot let it get to you, because if you do, you'll eventually want to retaliate, and we've all seen time and again how that turns out for people. Have the self-discipline to know when to distance yourself from it all. When things get too heavy, just walk away. Go do something that makes you happy and clear your head. You'll come back a wiser person, I promise you. You have to look at even the bad feedback and try to understand why people are feeling that way. Filter out the negativity in your mind and separate it from the information that could actually steer you in a more positive direction. Beta test your ideas. Try having friends, family, and anyone else you know look at what you've made before you post it and provide their honest thoughts on it. Give their suggestions a go and see if that gets you a better reaction. Because I tell you what, always being willing to learn and improve is how a terrible creation becomes a bad one, then one that's just okay, then good, better, and then finally great. It's how you build yourself as a brand and gain a good reputation. I mean, wouldn't you rather be known as the guy willing to admit his faults and fix them, rather than the stubborn dick who always thinks they're right? I know I would. As a member of a creative field, you are a perpetual student. So even when you're doing everything in your power to be the best in your grade, never assume you deserve more than any of your fellow classmates. That is, until your teacher tells you do. And that's it. Over these past 3 weeks, I've armed you with pretty much everything you need to get started in this field. Sure, there are plenty of other aspects, like how to create a good thumbnail, how to edit properly, how to use social media correctly, and so on, but really, that's where the process starts to get much more personal. That's the line where your own style and flair starts becoming a bigger factor, and I don't want to rob that from you. I don't want to tell you it's supposed to be done a particular way and potentially hamper you from finding an even better method. Out of all the aspects of making your ideas come to life, these are the only ones I believe to be universal constants. The ones that will benefit you no matter who your audience is, where you go, or how far you end up climbing. So, go, my friends. Go fill the world with the things only you can make. Because as long as you keep this advice to heart, it'll be a more wonderful place for it.
Roses are red, violets are blue. I've learned my lessons and now I share them with you. And hopefully by learning from my mistakes in this past, not having to learn all of these things yourself, you'll start off on a way better foot than I did when I first began. I think it's kind of natural to make these kinds of videos, to feel the need to make these kinds of videos, because at the end of the day, YouTube is a community. Like, we are all brought together by one drive or another, that we all share passion about something, whether we make videos about it or just enjoy watching other people make videos about it. It's something that we all share. So if my advice helps even one other person out there make this community just a little bit better, add to it in a way that is positive and forward-facing and just entertaining for everybody, yeah, I think I'd be happy with that.